We've just arrived in the town of Punta Gorda, which is just south of the location where the eye of the storm hit, and you can see some of the damage here. This boat upended here on the side of the harbour gives you a sense of the power of the wind and the height of the storm surge, which we're told was around about 10 feet here in Punta Gorda. But the good news from our location certainly is that the damage to infrastructure is minimal. The damage to boats and things all around the harbour clearly more substantial, but all the buildings here, while those in the very low-lying areas right next to the harbour front here are damaged in terms of water from the storm surge, which was significant, the structural damage to any major buildings appears to be pretty minor here. As I say, north that way is where the eye of the storm hit, and then the storm swept across from the west coast of Florida right across the Florida peninsula and will make its way out on the east coast, just north, we think, of Daytona Beach on the east coast. So that sweep of damage is going to be right across Florida. The other factor which was not factored in is the damage from tornadoes. Now, tornadoes they happen with the outer edges in the outer edges of a hurricane. It is not unusual to see tornadoes, but there were a record warning of 126 tornadoes last night. As we drove up from Miami, it was extraordinary weather on the freeway, the highway, east to west across the peninsula. At times completely clear, no rain at all, and then suddenly you'd hit driving rain, visibility almost zero, and that was the consequence of isolated tornadoes which were in the outer rain bands of the hurricane itself. So an extraordinary weather phenomenon that the people of Florida are experiencing once again, Jane. And as I say, there is a huge challenge ahead because 3 million people are without power across Florida. There have been record rainfall both on the coastline but inland as well. So very, very challenging for the authorities. We stayed in Fort Myers, which is quite a bit south of where the hurricane ended up hitting. And the first half of the night, up until about midnight, was full on. There were, even though we were many miles from the eye of the storm, an awful lot of wind and rain as well. But then suddenly, it is extraordinary the way Mother Nature works, suddenly calm and quiet. The second half of the night, nothing at all. I opened the curtains this morning and the trees were still. It was so clear that the storm had swept through, it had moved on, and the skies now, well, look, it's a bit cloudy here, but you can see as we swing round there, you're looking at one of the two bridges that leads across the causeway here. You're looking north there. That is the area where the storm damage is worst. But I have to say, I think, and these are still early days. The sun has only been up for an hour or two. But I think the fear of this being the worst storm in a century, maybe not. Maybe they dodged a bullet here. I do think, though, that the tornadoes I talked about, which, as I say, are common in the outer rain bands of a tornado, they have caught people by surprise, certainly. And of course, tornadoes are so isolated. You could be driving down a street and wonder where the damage is. And I've covered tornadoes in places like Kentucky, and it looks like there's no damage. Then you go round a corner and it's devastation, but in a very, very narrow band, and that is why they catch people off guard. So I think the tornado damage, and I think there have been 4 deaths confirmed in one of those tornadoes, that is going to be, that's certainly taken people by surprise. But the broader structural damage here, at least, just south of where the eye of the storm was, is not as bad as people feared. But we're going to continue on the road. We'll head further north and we'll bring you updates